Howdy hey everyone, welcome back to the Celtia region, and it's been a while since I've made an original Fakemon. I mean, my last 3 videos were about redesigning old, real Pokemon, so instead, today I'm going to create 3 different designs, all based on German topics, since Celtia is based on Germany. Now, let's hop in. So we're going to be doing things a little bit different today. Normally I would design first and then explain later. Today though, I'm going to explain it first in hopes of clearing it up. Back to the topic on the design, I'm going to base it around the geocentric theory. For those unaware, long ago, the church and politics were basically one and the same. Basically, whatever the Pope said was law. One thing the Pope said was that the Earth is the center of the universe, so everything, including the sun, planets, and the rest of the stars, all orbited around Earth. So, space stuff. So, what about an animal, though? Well, the Ursa major and minor constellations exist. Why not a sun bear? So this design is going to be just a tiny little bear cub. You know, something along the lines of like Pancham and Teddy Ursa and Cubchoo and, you know, just like that. I'm gonna give it little fireball hands to resemble, or that mean to resemble the stars. And it has a little rocky belly button, which represents the Earth, since the Earth, at least according to the geocentric theory, the Earth would be the center of everything, and all the stars and planets, and yeah, I already went over this. But yeah, since the sun bear is kind of like a black bear, just with a little bit fuzzier bits around the face, it's just gonna have like really fluffy looking cheeks. Like I said, mostly black bear colors with orange fireball hands for a splash of color. So yeah, say hello to Ursa, a rock and fire type. This Pokemon eats exclusively wood to keep its fire running. The rock belly button is made from minerals that it doesn't need to digest. So you may be wondering, if the geocentric theory is the only inspiration, why in a German region? Heck, the church was most prominent in Spain, so why not Paldea? Well, currently we know that the Earth is not the center of the universe, so someone must be responsible for that. That man goes by the name of Nicholas Copernicus, aka among the most famous German astronomers in history, who first proposed the heliocentric theory, saying that the sun is the center of the solar system and that all the planets circle it. This theory is still being used today. So, it's mostly just going to be a bigger Earth sun. It's, the biggest difference is, of course, it's going to be getting bigger, but also, it goes from having a rocky belly button to a fiery belly button and rocky hands instead of a rocky belly. And this is because it's more reminiscent of the planets, which are usually rocky, surrounding the sun, instead of the sun surrounding the planet. It also has a kind of bored expression, and I think I made the head a bit big compared to the bodies for a final evolution. So maybe it's a middle evolution. Maybe I'll give it an evolution in the future. Who knows? But for now, say hello to Urselsun, a rock and fire type from Ursa, Celsius, and Sun. Fairly intelligent, these Pokemon use their hard, rocky paws to crack open hard fruits and nuts. The fire on its chest is pulsing, then so is its heart. As I mentioned the design process, while Ursun had a rocky belly button representing the Earth, and fireball hands representing the stars orbiting Earth, when it evolves, it has fire in the middle representing the sun, and hard rocky hands representing the planets orbiting the sun. Just like how Ursun evolves into Urselsun, the geocentric theory evolves into the heliocentric theory. Another thing quite German, in fact it might be the first thing you think of when I say German, is the horrifyingly dark fairy tales. I already have a Pokemon based on a Brothers Grimm story. Celtian Trevenant is based on the Hansel and Gretel story. A lot of these stories have gained popularity after being turned into Disney movies. However, these Disney adaptations rarely keep the original moral, listen to your parents, which is in fact a very common moral in the Brothers Grimm stories. But in both Tangled and The Little Mermaid, both stories based on the Brothers Grimm adaptations, the children are rewarded for rebelling against their parents as opposed to being punished. Oh well, that's enough ranting though. The story this Pokemon is based on is the story of the fisherman and his wife. How it goes is, a poor fisherman goes out one night to fish and he ends up catching a flounder. After he reels it in, the flounder speaks to him, saying, "Please don't eat me. I'm a prince that was turned into a fish. If you let me go, I shall grant you a wish." So the man lets the fish go and goes home, where his wife tells him to ask for a larger house. Then, after the flounder does this, the wife asks for nicer and nicer houses and higher positions of power. But when she does, and asks to be God, they return back to their teeny tiny shack instead. So, how about a regional fish, based on the flounder? Basically every region has one. So the regional fish idea is a fairly common one. I mean, you have your Magikarp, your Feebas, your Arrokuda, things like that. And something that they all keep in design or they all have consistent in their designs, is that while most Pokemon are like fantastical, wild creatures, they're just fish. That's all there is to it. It's just a fish. So the Pokemon that I'm making here is going to be just a fish. That's the whole thing. It's boring, it's a fish. It has boring-looking colors because it's supposed to resemble the peasant fisherman and his low position. Oh well. Say hello to Floundish, a water type. This Pokemon are incredibly common in Celtia and are often cultivated for their meat. They are quite bitter with sweet undertones. So right now it's realistically just a cartoon flounder. Nothing much to it. Since flounders are bottom feeders, both eyes are on one side, but since that would probably be too creepy for a Pokemon, I just gave it one eye on each side. Oh well. Now, Floundish is kinda cool, but it's not a wish-granting fish yet. Now for the evolution, let's mix it with a genie. After all, this is essentially the German wish-granting story akin to Aladdin and the Monkey's Paw, as well as splitting the tail fin in two to resemble legs, akin to the Little Mermaid story. So for its evolution, I wanted it to be like a little more majestic, kind of long, kind of like built like Gyarados in Milotic, where it's just like kind of a bit longer. It also gives it off like that wispy genie idea that I said that I wanted in the original. It's also like just really flowy. It's like, this gives it a lot of motion, makes it look nice. It's gonna have more vibrant colors than the original, as well as like these pink tips, which are like just make it look a bit more magical. And yeah, say hello to Floundini from Flounder and Genie, a water and psychic type. While Floundish are very common, Floundini are incredibly rare. Folktales say that if you catch one, your wildest dreams will come true in one way or another. Its fins are all flowy now, similar to some fish species like the angel and betta fish, but the smoky bodies of genies. The top fin also smoothed out like a turban, referencing Aladdin. And finally, like mentioned before, the fins split kind of like legs, reinforcing the Little Mermaid inspiration. The final line for today goes from folktales to food. While not as famous as their neighbor Switzerland, German cheese is really nothing to scoff at. Heck, almost every country in Europe has some pretty good cheese. So what about a mouse? They're almost always associated with cheese, to the point where if I say mouse, one of the first words to pop in your head might be cheese. So for this Pokemon, I wanted it to be kind of mischievous looking, kind of like, looks like he's plotting something, like he's up to something. Because, I mean, mice and rats, really, are always seen to be they're clever, but they're also, like, evil, kind of. Like, they're, like, a lot of the time they're, like, the bad guys. Not always, though. I wanted to give him, like, big, cartoony, almost Mickey Mouse looking ears. And a, like, little backpack, and a pose that kind of looks like he's sneaking around a house. He's a mischievous little fella. Real sneaky, you know? Yeah. I'm giving it just, like, white mouse colors because I don't really know what else to do. Say hello to Moose Steel, from Mus musculus, the scientific name for a mouse, and Steel. These Pokemon were imported from a faraway region. They steal milk jars from vendors to sustain their litter. Now you might be wondering, hold on, you said cheese, not milk. Well, all cheese has to start out as milk, so the first form of this line has a jar of Moo Moo milk. Mice are also quite clever, so it would make sense for them to be able to plan a milk heist. When Moose Steel evolves, I want it to elaborate on the thief idea, but also the cheese process. Have you ever been in elementary school and made cheese by shaking it? Newsflash, that's not actually how you make cheese, but it's a cool idea, so we're gonna work with it. So the design is gonna start as just a taller, skinnier Moose Steel. It's gonna have like a big lanky body and big baggy arms to kind of look like delinquent clothing. Again, it has those big Mickey Mouse ears and like an even more mischievous looking face. This guy's definitely up to something. He's definitely planning. He's plotting. But yeah, he's got patterns on his pants and face and gloves, well, hands that look like gloves. All of it looks like clothing. I think it's really nice when designs are able to integrate clothing as well as integrate clothing looking patterns into his design without explicitly looking like clothing. Like, for example, these pants. And we say hello to Rackard from Rat and Cheese Curds, a normal and dark type. They hunt in pairs, and while one juggles the jar of cream to distract victims, the second steals their food. They are mischievous and intelligent. So Rackard here kind of just looks like a delinquent teen with patterns on the legs that look like baggy pants with tufts of fur that look like rips. You know, the kind that would just shoplift a candy bar from a Walmart. To expand on the thief idea, he even has little gloves and even a little Zorro mask. I genuinely love him. If this were a real region and Team Rocket were still around, they would definitely have one. And as much as I love Rackard, it does evolve one more time, so why not expand on the crime idea even more and make it a mob boss? It wouldn't be the first time Pokemon would have made one, with Giovanni and the boss stiff. So here's Haunchies, a normal and dark type. These Pokemon care very much about their families and feed young Moose Steel who can't feed themselves. They swing their jar of cheese around like a mace in battle. Its whiskers look kind of like a handlebar mustache, the kind cartoon villains have, and the pattern looks like a suit, with some extra lines so it doesn't look as, like a suit. The curds have now turned into cheese, and its dex entry references a mob boss providing for its members. And that's it for today. What do you think? Which ones are your guys' favorite? Let me know down below, and as usual, I will be back soon. See ya, and stay safe.